Welcome back to PR with Serena, a space for me to speak to you directly, the business owner, creator, entrepreneur, about how to more effectively manage your reputation in this completely new and often changing online digital climate. I am a chartered PR practitioner with 20 years plus experience. I've worked in communications, the media for a very long time, multi sector, and I'm also a content creator. So I'm speaking from a place of experience, a place of I'm still walking the walk, and I'm here to share anecdotes, skills, expertise, and implementation for you to just communicate more effectively as a business, to sort of install public relations and communications into your work stream, if you like, especially if you're a solo person. So I'm going to talk about reputation a lot. And the reason why I'm going to talk about reputation is because it matters so much to us when we are public facing, when we are visible, when we can be seen and heard. And even if we're not the front man for our brand is still accessible. People can comment, people can complain. I was listening to a Ricky Gervais YouTube video. I don't know what to call them actually. They're quite interesting, where he just speaks and things in an unfiltered way, which is always really refreshing. And Ricky Gervais said how at one point before social media, if you were going to complain about something, you'd have to write a letter, like complaining about a TV show or a program. You'd have to go to the bother and the effort of actually drafting a letter and then sending it off. And you can imagine by the time you get to the point of writing a letter or having to find the address and a stamp and send it off, you might just give up, which is probably why a lot of people thought, okay, if I don't like it, I don't like it, I won't watch it. And then won't bother writing a letter and sending it off. Or for those who did make it to the finish line and did actually end up writing a letter and sending it, I don't know what the percentage would be, maybe 1%. And now, because that letter of complaint is so easily done within seconds via X or an email, or to, I don't know, let's just say you're a hotel or a resort and immediately a bad review is on TripAdvisor. We are in completely different times and much, much more challenging for brands. And so that's why I want to talk about your reputation, and I want to talk about why you shouldn't be so worried or scared about a bad review, and how there's opportunities to convert it, but also you just can't convert everyone, and there will be people who don't like you. So on my streaming channel, I've spoken about this before. Let's look at kind of a human example, a very real human connection example. There is this sort of expectation that we want everyone to like us. And we know that's not possible. So let's be generous. Let's say out of everyone you know closely, let's say only 50%, I'm being generous, only 50% really adore you and really love you. Something like 30%, I think you're okay and they will tolerate you. You think they might actually like you, but no, let's just say only 30%. And then there's 20% who just detest you and they just won't tell you. So let's just take that framing. The reason why I'm taking that framing is because if that's a reality of the world and how humans are about each other, I mean, we can be honest, there's probably a lot of people who think that we absolutely adore them or like them or even respect them, and we don't do any of that. Um, and the reason why they don't know is because either they're not very astute, or because we're not doing this letter of complaint thing, they just don't find out. We won't always know. And then there's times when we will know. So if you're a brand, you need to accept that there'll be that kind of slicing up of sentiment. Not everyone will absolutely adore you and love you. And if they do, you'll hear from them, but not always hear from them. If they are sort of indifferent to you, you may or may not hear from them. And if they don't like you at all, it's probably quite likely that you will hear from them, because again, in this day and age, this digital age that we're in, people are probably more likely to say something negative than something positive. The positive endorsement may just be a thumbs up on a video. The negative sort of comment, not negative endorsement, but the negative comment will probably be quite verbose. And so we have to become much more comfortable with this. We are in a constantly changing climate and constantly changing world. Your brand is constantly evolving. And so there is going to be that flux. You will be taking steps that might alter the direction, not just of you as a brand, but might alter the direction of sentiment that your audience has of you. So you have to be comfortable with this level of uncertainty and flux. The next thing I really want to sort of like get across is this. If somebody is negative, then you don't have to shy away from engaging with that comment. The reason why I'm saying this is, so on my streaming channel for a great deal of time, um, that I've had it, which hasn't been long, but for most of the time that I've had it, because I'm providing commentary and analysis on media, media literacy, and politics. There will be times when I come across somebody who just really cannot stand the fact that I'm either notoriously sitting on the fence, and I sit on the fence so that I can take a step back. I do this by practice for profession and as a person. I think it helps with our critical thinking when we don't get so invested and reactive. So I take a super zoomed step back to people who think that I should align with their sort of identity politics or with their activism, can also be frustrated, especially if they might see me on a protest, but then also sympathize with the other side. And this can be quite frustrating for my audience. Well, for some of them, I'm sure a lot of them, because the audience is building, appreciate it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have the channel. But on the occasions that I do hear from them, because they are, well, the segment that can't stand me, because I'm either sitting on a fence, or I'm not condemning something, or I'm condoning something else, or I'm not providing complete and utter support for one political party, they will usually use sort of ad hominems or ways to critique and criticize. And it can be quite unfair, and of course it is. But you've got to accept that this is part and parcel of being visible. The democratization, if you like, of public opinion is there, and there'll always be somebody who's going to say something. Now you've got to figure out which ones are you going to engage with, and perhaps use as an opportunity to perhaps cultivate some support, because you can, if you are visibly engaging with something that is quite controversial or difficult or complex, then actually it can build trust with your audience who sees you doing that visibly. There's an opportunity there for you to be a good faith actor, for you to demonstrate your alignment to your values, for you to demonstrate that through the discussion and the debate. If you manage to convert them even better without backing down, you can be open, you can invite the thoughts and the opinion. And this is, remember, part of your brand communications. You must be doing sentiment monitoring, you must be monitoring and checking how your audience is feeling, where they're headed, what's going on, and do it at unexpected times. Don't just do it at a time when there's a crisis. You can do this at unexpected times so that you can avoid a crisis. Check on things, monitor things, see how sentiment is and why it's the way that it is. Capture it. I mean, lots of ways for you to capture sentiment, but you can use your existing platforms for those kinds of metrics. The idea here is to not simply look at your audience behavior as the call to action you're looking for, but everything in between. And when you do this, this is how you can probably better track sentiment and protect reputation, to avoid a reputational crisis, to avoid that kind of risk. But let's just say you've entered now into the danger zone, and I'll finish off with this. And thank you for listening so far. Let me finish off with something. If you haven't already liked and subscribed, please do. I love the fact that you're here, and any comments, any questions at all in the comment section. Let me finish off with this. Your reputation now is uh, it's got to be an agile thing. You've got to flex with it. People are going to think different things about you, and everyone's a journalist on TikTok, and they could even do exposés about you. What are you going to do in this situation? You can, of course, do the thing like the royal family does, never explain, never complain, etc., and not engage with it and only really speak when it's necessary. I don't think it's going to work for everyone to do that. I think unless you are in the sort of extremely high echelons of society, unless you're that, you can't really get away with that. So if you do have to engage with something, then if you are doing your monitoring and you have picked up any themes, and I've spoken about this in earlier videos, if you picked up on any themes, any issues, anything at all, be selective. See which ones has the most connection. So hang on, it's like whack-a-mole. You don't want to be playing whack-a-mole. That's like firefighting. If it's a game of whack-a-mole, imagine you take off the external facade of that game. See which of those moles, the whack-a-mole, see which of those has more connections with others in the back end. And when you've done that, you might find that if you just focus on this whack-a-mole here, you'll get the others as well. That's one way for you to approach the sort of handling of your reputation and engaging with your audience. It is definitely worthwhile for you to do the work, to look at what's going on in between, um, actually prior to you reaching out to your audience and connecting with them, with your communications, and before the sort of call to action and after the call to action, whether it's the build up before they've even sort of purchased your webinar or your course, or it is the aftermath of your podcast episode or that interview that dropped and you were like, yes, this is what's really going to please them, like they're going to be so excited about this is going to restore their faith in me, etc. So keep an ear to the, is it ground, is that the best way to describe this? But be open and open-minded, capture sentiment, see if you can make connections. Can you group things into category, into themes? Can you figure out which mole is best for you to whack? All of them might not be a good idea, especially if you're doing multiple things and wearing multiple hats. And most business owners and entrepreneurs are doing that. So you want to take a little bit of time to think, which moles should I hit? And please don't grab your sort of device and jump on screen and start talking without a plan. And your planning has to always be in parallel to everything. It's got to be concurrent, like 15 minutes a week, half an hour every week, just to capture sentiment, regardless of whether you have a launch or not. You've got to have a sense of, what is my audience currently thinking and feeling? What are they going through? This isn't just about understanding pain points. This is about understanding audience, let's say, perspective on life and living and on things going on right now, whether it's socio-political issues or economic or cultural. Let them know that you see them and that you hear them, you recognize what's going on in their lives, that you acknowledge them, and don't be sort of generic about it. So like I said, when you're whacking the moles, see if you can pick one or two. If you note that there are some issues that are probably higher up on the list for your audience, then that can also feed into what you're planning. If you had a launch plan for a product or a service that was 9 months down the line and now you're there, all of your sentiment tracking has built up to a point where now you're like, well, actually, the rollout of that won't work unless we acknowledge all of this. And you've only been able to do that because you haven't like had blinders on the entire time. You've actually been making the effort to connect, to understand your audience. Take that time. The way that you can sort of assess where your reputation is at with your audience, and then also what you can leverage. So remember, you're also looking to invite new people into your audience. This isn't just it. You're looking to build, nurture what you have, but also build. And there are new opportunities that you can find. So when you're whacking those molds, know exactly which molds they are, how they're connected, and what opportunities you have. When you do this kind of planning and approach your sort of business in this way, you can spot so many opportunities which could then be fed into your organization, into product development, into your business planning, all the way up to board level, all the way down to operations. But that's up to you if you're going to take the time out to do this kind of planning in parallel. Public relations and comms planning shouldn't just be like, oh, it's a desirable. It should be a mandatory, compulsory part of your business. It doesn't matter how big or small you are. I should take this advice myself because I can do this wonderfully for others. But myself as a content creator, as a consultant, as a trainer, teacher, as a creative, goodness me, is it difficult? I try and do the absolute I say the minimal, which is, I put a vlog out on my personal YouTube channel in order to build that personal brand, but not in a engineered way, just so people can connect with me in a different way. Um, and then when I'm sort of doing the actual work and the consulting work, I probably don't join the dots enough. But then I find myself completely lost in I don't join the dots enough in terms of any opportunities I might have with the personal brand of stuff. That's what I meant. But when it comes to the comment section on my streaming channel or any channel, in fact, I am just swimming in there. I feel like I have a really good sense of what people are thinking and feeling, and I can respond accordingly. I can tailor my content accordingly. I don't just look at the analytics, if you like, which can sometimes feel a bit cold. Um, Getting the actual anecdotes, the words, the sense of what people are thinking and feeling from the words that they write, the long sentences, very sometimes very long paragraphs. But because this is a new channel and a new podcast, I am really hoping to hear from you in the comments. And so let me know what kind of a business entrepreneur, creator you are, how this is helping, and what more you would like from me. There is more content coming out every day, every week. So please do feel free to subscribe if you haven't already. There's lots of ways that you can connect with me and contact me as well. It's been a pleasure sharing my expertise with you, and you'll hear from me and see me in the next episode.